In this lecture we talk about equivalent absolute values. So the absolute value gives us a distance function. So say you're given 2 points x and y. So the distance between x and y is just the absolute value of x minus y. So once you have a distance function, you can always put a metric. So this distance function gives us the metric. So this metric will give us open balls, and because you have open balls, we will have topology. So the open ball looks like this. Center of the ball is x, so it is set of all points which lie within the distance r, and this r is greater than 0. This is exactly like what we do in analysis. You form balls around point x. So these open balls give us set of neighborhoods of x. So again, you have absolute value gives you distance gives you metric, and metric gives you set of open neighborhoods. So now we come to this equivalence of absolute values. So two absolute values, say one is absolute value 1, other is absolute value 2. These two absolute values are equivalent if they define the same topology. So now the lemma, which will be useful for same topology. So two absolute values, say 1 and 2, these are equivalent if and only if you can find some constant c which is a positive real number such that this second absolute value is same as first absolute value raised to the power of some constant. So that means then these two absolute values are equivalent to each other. So now we will prove this lemma in a bit. Before this, we need to make some remarks. So now we define something called a place. So a place V, this is an equivalence class of non-trivial absolute values, and it is denoted by this absolute value. This subscript is V here. So we have two absolute values, these are equivalent, so you can form an equivalence class, and then you can denote that equivalence class by something like V. So now say you are given a field extension L over K, and you have a place W which lives on L. So W lives on L, so you can say that W will obviously contract to something on K. So say if you contract it back to K or restrict it to K, it becomes V. So you have place W of L which restricts to place V on K. So then we say that W extends V. So you have W here and you have V here. So W is on L, you restrict it to K, it becomes V. So then we say that this W extends V, and we write this W divides V. And this notation comes from the fact that non-Archimedean places in number fields correspond to prime ideals. So you need to think in terms of factorization of ideals in a Dedekind domain. So now we come to the proof of this lemma, and we are going to rewrite this lemma in a more detail. So say you have two absolute values 1 and 2, and both of them are non-trivial. So then the following statements are equivalent. Number 1, they induce the same topology. Number 2, this absolute value of x1 is less than 1 if and only if the second absolute value is also less than 1. And third, which is just this bigger statement which you want to prove, is that this second absolute value of x is same as the first absolute value raised to power of some constant c, which is a positive real number. So let us start proving this. So we'll start by proving 3 because this seems to be the easiest. So you consider balls around 0 for each of the absolute values. So this is ball of radius r corresponding to this. This is ball of radius r to the c because it is corresponding to this. So you assume 3. So this equality translates into this equality here. So you have the same balls, just the radius here is contracted, and therefore we get the same topology. So this gives you balls like this, and since you have the same looking balls, you have the same topology. So 3 implies 1. This was easy. So now we will say 1 implies 2. So first notice the multiplicative property of any absolute value. So this x to the n, any absolute value will become absolute value of x raised to the power of n. So this n inside will come outside. Now since this goes to 0, so this is true if and only if this inside value of absolute value is less than 1. So because this absolute value is always a real number, so and it is a positive real number, so it has to be less than 1 here. So what we get is, this is true for any absolute value, so it is true for both absolute value 1 and 2. So instead of I, you're writing 1 or 2. So you have if and only if statement because this entire thing is true for both 1 and 2. So now 2 to 3 requires some effort. So 2 implies 3. So first from this statement here, so we know this is true, we can find some a such that a1 is absolute value of a, first absolute value is less than 1, and the second absolute value is also less than 1. It's just copying the statement right here. So then you can define a number c as like this. So absolute value of a, the second absolute value of a, is equal to first absolute value of a to the power of c. So we are defining c here. So this is just the definition of c. So we were able to find this from 2, and they're just two numbers, so you can always find c so that you can put these two numbers as equal to each other. So we want to go from here to any general x, so that is here. So from here we want to go to here, and our journey now begins. So say you have taken some x whose first absolute value is less than 1 and x is non-zero, just a set of units. So then we can define some s, a positive real number, and you can put this equality here. So because this will be a number, and then you can define s, so that for this particular number this is a1 to the s. And now let m and n be two positive integers such that this is a rational number which is greater than s. So now we want to go from here to here. So first notice that you can raise this to the power of n. So if I raise this to the power of n, this will just be, say, here you will have ns. So now you take a to the m, divide by x to the n, that will be a to the m, and you're dividing by this a again, absolute value 1. So you get m minus ns. And this is less than 1 precisely because we started with this less than 1 here. And now by 2, if you're less than 1 for the first absolute value, you have to be less than 1 for the second absolute value. So this thing is now less than 1. So now instead of 1, you can write 2 being less than 1. So from here you get this x2 is greater than a2 m by n. What you're doing is you're transferring this to this side and then taking roots. So we had chosen here that m by n is greater than s, but we could have made another choice that m by n is less than s, and then we would have gotten this x2 is less than this a2 to the s. So now you can say m by n tends to s, and therefore you will get equality here. So you will get equality right here. So since m by n is greater than s, that's why you have this number as positive, and this is less than 1. But if m by n is less than s, then this number would become negative, and therefore everything will reverse. So now you take m by n tended to s, so instead of this greater than and less than, you get equality. So equality here we are going to, so instead of this sign I'm putting equality, it comes right here. So now focus here. So we are raising both sides to the power of s. So this is s, this is s. So you have an equality here. This equality we are copying right here. But then we are raising both sides to the power of c. You have c here and you raise c here. So this we will copy right here. And that's what we wanted to show, that this is equal to this, which was our initial statement, or right here. So we have been able to prove the lemma for the equivalence of two absolute values.